Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Kraken Power Rankings. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Magic Mike McGovern's Mystery Mushrooms. Get your fungus from fun guys. Are you ready to embark on a culinary adventure like no other? Introducing Magic Mike McGovern's Mystery Mushrooms. Our mushrooms are handpicked by the fun guys themselves in an area where nobody else is allowed to enter. And here's what our delighted fan base has to say. I can't believe how delicious and unique they are. I've never tasted anything quite like this. And wow, these mushrooms are incredible. They're like a flavor explosion in my mouth. Only at Magic Mike McGovern's Mystery Mushrooms. That's right, folks. Our mushrooms are grown with love, care, and a drizzle of magic. Now remember, Magic Mike McGovern's Mystery Mushrooms. Get your fungus from fun guys. Order your load now. Okay, and that is our sponsor. Thank you to Magic Mike McGovern's Mystery Mushrooms. We definitely appreciate their sponsorship and what they've been able to send us for product. It's expected to be in the mail, assuming it doesn't get confiscated by customs. So here we go. I think we have on the screen now. Oh, look, there's what's it called? The Excel doc that I didn't want to have on here, but we'll get that out of here. I'm not really sure how it got there in the first place. Maybe if I do that, there it is. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's just the those weekly fair standings I had or whatever, but those don't really matter right now for our purposes. So in any case, we had a super interesting week this week. There's as coming down to the Monday night, I think we had at least two matchups. I'm gonna look at it here that were really, really close. We had Jay on the cusp of getting his first win. I mean, that looks like a 9-point win almost, but I thought Jay was going to have it. It took 27 points. I guess he only needed 18 or something like that from the Chargers defense Nolan did to beat Jay. That was a damn close one. But Nolan squeaked out a win, so he gets to stay up there at the top in third place. And then this was another really close one. Chris and Zach here. That was I thought Chris was about to lose that one too. Because you had Keenan Allen and Garrett Wilson getting like nothing for at least the first quarter and almost through the first half. But they got just enough to again squeak out another win. Super close. It was really, I'd say it's really exciting. It was pretty exciting. This one, the McGovern and Jake matchup was close for a while, but I think Jake pretty much had it in the bag when it was during the Cowboys game. I think when Ferguson went off. I miss Fergie so much. He's what was the final 27-6 for Eckler put up another 21.5. I definitely miss Fergie, but I had to get rid of him. But yeah, I mean, a solid output here. Really, nobody that sucked. Cook has been pretty bad. With just this one game here where he had that one TD, but he's TD dependent at this point. TD dependent flex. He's I think Jake is in search of a true RB2, though Madison, now with Cam Akers out for a year, is going to have workhorse duties, so that comes in just in time. So we should be able to make a decent run to get into one of those last playoff spots there. I think we have, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We have 5 weeks left until playoffs. So, I think when you look at, are these? No, they're not. No one's officially eliminated yet, but it basically unofficially eliminated is these guys down here. So that is what it is. Elliott managed to luck out a win here. That's okay though. We've all had our luck throughout the season, like especially me at the beginning. But in any case, as far as getting to the actual before we get into the actual power rankings, we need to do the deep dive into someone's team. So let's spin the wheel here. I think it should be updated from last time where we did Morgan Ellie's, and it's gone now. So, all right, we can take a deep dive into Crew's team. All right, yeah, we have a winner. All right, cool. Let's get you out of here. No more confetti for you. And let's jump into Chris's team. So Chris's team has been really interesting, especially considering the running back status, I'd say. Because for weeks now, it's been heavily relying on Gus Edwards, Kareem Hunt, and Deonta Foreman. Aaron Jones finally got a workload this last week. Bijan is not being utilized correctly. It's just whatever. This is a weird situation, but the running backs have been dreadfully thin, but just keeps churning out points at the running back position, which is just super bizarre. Just a really, really bizarre way to keep winning these matchups. So the wide receiving room has been pretty bad. Newly acquired DK Metcalf. I think I've made my thoughts on DK Metcalf known to most people in the league. I mean, this looks super consistent. I just don't. I don't like DK Metcalf. Never really have, but this looks consistent. It's the idea of Chris getting him, I think, is to get a solid floor guy, and then really capitalize possibly on the in the playoff schedule. Though, I mean, Geno Smith, I said something in the offseason about not liking, just not really trusting Geno Smith after just having that pretty much one good year. You don't follow like 8 bad years with one good year and think that all of a sudden you've turned it around. I don't know. It's not like I expected him to be awful. I just thought he'd be a middle of the road, kind of guy. Like a maybe like less than Baker Mayfield kind of guy. I don't know. And then you have 3 wide receivers now, like they're with JSN, and Lockett and Metcalf, and then a great running game, and they added Charbonnet. Like, I don't know, not something I was super excited about, but. I mean, what really hurts is obviously game 1 of the season with Aaron Rodgers going out, takes Garrett Wilson's value. It completely tanks it. But Keenan Allen was a great pick in the third to really give a solid stud receiver on this team. I'm pretty sure last week might have been his lowest of the season, or at least close. Yeah, like his lowest in the season is 8 points with 9 targets. There's one game where he got like no targets. And that was here. So, I mean, that's exactly what you want from your wide receiver 1. So Keenan Allen's been a savior for this team, at least early on, has been a solid contributor and not holding the team back as of late. Lamar Jackson, I know I've said this before, that I just don't like him. It's just these inconsistent performances that bother me. Yeah, he's got a huge ceiling. Look at this. That's fantastic. And then a number of these solid games, but then because he's not that great of a passer, how many? Like 1, 2, he's just not really great passing yards. So it's very much and that's the team scheme, right? Like they're a run first team, so it's you can rely somewhat on the rushing to give you points. But if you're running for 10 times for 60 yards, and still only putting up 15 points, it's a little scary. But look at this team; they've only lost twice. So, real life, I think Lamar Jackson brings more value than he does in fantasy, and in fantasy, he does bring good value. I just, Chris and I were talking earlier in the year, and he wanted to trade for Anthony Richardson, and I said that I'd straight up rather have Anthony Richardson over Lamar Jackson, and I still believe that to be the case. But it's not really an indictment on Lamar. It's more of a, I feel like it's a little bit of an indictment on Lamar. I just really liked Richardson, and I don't know. I guess I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say other than I just personally don't like Lamar. I don't like him as a fantasy quarterback, but there might be really no good reason for it. But in that case, as far as the actual numbers come out, he could be serviceable, and I don't think Lamar Jackson would be the reason that Chris loses if he were to go on a losing streak. But we'll see there. It's definitely a bit of a mixed feelings on like taking my personal thoughts on him, on whether I'd want him and versus the actual point output he gives. So sort of like Metcalf and Lamar Jackson are pretty much, I feel the same about both of them. I don't like them, don't want them on my team. Again, that's not a personal resentment toward them as people. It's a personal resentment toward them as fantasy players. This is probably a better way to put it. But in any case, I love Keenan Allen. I think Garrett Wilson will. I thought Garrett Wilson would get a new quarterback at the trade deadline, but that didn't happen. So it's if something changes, then I think his value goes up. If not, then he's sort of just stuck here as a wide receiver too, with a limited ceiling. Definitely too bad, but Uh, anyway, so like moving on now, I guess to Aaron Jones. As long as he doesn't re-aggravate that hammy, he's back. That's huge, a huge workload. Nearly just under 100 yards all-purpose. That's great. He's involved in the 5, 5, 6 in targets, 20 carries. And I think he had like a fumble or whatever, but not a big deal. Like he's not about to get benched for something like that. So he's just got to stay healthy. His bye week's already gone, so he should be able to help Chris out for the rest of the season. Bijan, it just feels like he's like a ticking time bomb that he's eventually going to just explode. But, I mean, at least he has that possibility here in playoffs. I mean, that's what really matters. Chris is pretty much a lock for the playoffs at this point. There'd be a lot that would have to go wrong between now and then for him to be out of it. So I just got to hope that Arthur Smith, figures out how to use him better and, take it from there. Taysom, every year we fall for Taysom, but he's getting insane usage right now. I had almost picked him up right prior to this game, but then I would have been it was a Thursday night game, and I've been starting 3 New Orleans Saints players, and I couldn't do it. Then I think we had a chance. I think I had a chance. Everyone had a chance, like in here, and never did. And then Chris ended up picking him up. So we'll see. We'll see how he gets used. If Hawkinson is hurt, if Hawkinson's healthy, I think that's absolutely bananas to be playing Taysom Hill above TJ Hawkinson. That just seems like a crazy play for no reason. Because I think he's playing Freaky this week. Freaky has no Tyreek Hill. Chris has no reason to be trying to. Oh, I guess you have the Lions coming back, so he does have a pretty good team coming in, but definitely no reason to make such a risky play by putting in Taysom Hill. I do think Taysom Hill is riskier than Hawkinson, but I mean, no, that's my team. Oops. But it could work out for him. You never really know. But to have Taysom Hill as a backup to Hawkinson, trading away Laporta, you still have two serviceable tight ends. So that's great. 2 good. I mean, they've been performing really, really well lately. So they're definitely more than serviceable. Hawkinson's a top three tight end. So pretty strong, still strong at the tight end position. Okay, Calvin Ridley is another one of these wide receiver 2 guys, pretty much a boom or bust wide receiver 2. Except this is neither boom nor bust. This is sort of just there, but just some really bad performances. And then I really don't know. I feel like he could be primed for a second half breakout, but I wouldn't be holding my breath. So if this team's going to make a championship run, I think there needs to be some kind of elite playmaker that can be pretty elite consistently, and it's just not happening, right? Like there's just not a consistent output of huge point guys. Like Chris's wins have been buoyed on Gus Edwards getting this string of touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, and I guess Gus was on the bench for this one, but I think he played him for this one. I'll be getting 31 points, or Deonta Foreman, who put up that 35 points that one week. Kareem Hunt, who's gotten, look at all these touchdowns, 5 touchdowns in 4 games. Like these guys that are getting, decent usage, but are just being buoyed by insane touchdown volume. So I feel like this team could fall flat at any moment, but it's still, I would take this. I would be happy, owning this team, but I have concerns about them heading into the playoffs, really, because I think if he secures a bye, I think he needs to secure a bye to feel comfortable, I suppose. But yeah, and at 8-1, that's pretty. I mean, where the next teams are 6-3, right? Yeah, 6-3. So very good chance of securing a bye, which will be very important, I think, because I think with a team like this, you want to have as few games as possible, which I guess is a statement you could say about any team. But all in all, there's decent depth. That's the other thing too. I talk about depth a lot, and while some of these guys are definitely touchdown dependent, looking at you, Hunt and Edwards, that's depth. I mean, and Foreman, I guess there's there's depth there. So if there's like an emergency fill-in situation, he's not scrambling to the waiver wire to pick up like an Antonio Gibson again, who actually had a good game, but so maybe not the best example. But well, since he's not available, it doesn't really matter. Whatever is available, like these guys are better than whatever's on the wire, and can put up these 8 to 9 points is not an unrealistic expectation for them. Whereas like a Zeke Elliott, who I have on my bench, gets projected about 7.5 or so, and he like never hits it. So this is like actual depth at the running back position. But it is what it is. So overall, and the 34 points on the Philly D, I think is pretty funny, especially considering this upcoming schedule. But hey, you got to get your guy, right? So no one else bid. He put on 34. I still think that's hilarious, but maybe I'll be the one looking like an idiot when Philly D comes in, drops like a 30 burger on me in the semis, down here if I make it that far. So, we'll see. But all in all, I think I did a lot of like criticism. I think I did criticize this team quite a bit, but overall, I think the floor is pretty solid. Because I guys like Keenan Allen, guys like Garrett Wilson, these are first read guy. DK Metcalf isn't always a first read guy, but he hasn't always had him here. But having two wide receivers who are first read guys, Aaron Jones is the best player on that offense. Bijan Robinson is the best player on that offense. It's good to have that, and TJ Hawkinson is not the best guy on that offense, but he's very, very good. Taysom Hill, someone's called Taysom Hill. I forget which analyst it was, said that this was like a month ago, said like Taysom Hill was the greatest player to ever play football, which I think is the most asinine statement that I had heard so far this season. But an elite defense and a number of top tier players, it's a very strong team that I think just lacks a very high ceiling at this point in time. But we'll see. The ceiling is Lamar Jackson scoring 40 and Keenan Allen putting up 30. Like those are two things that can happen. They probably, I think they have happened. I think Keenan Allen had a 30-point game. He had a 40-point game. So like that kind of stuff can happen. But will it? Probably not as frequently as you want, but we'll see. So overall, I think a solid team, above average. I think it's probably about the same place it's been in the power rankings for some time, but he keeps churning out wins, and that's what's important. So I think as far as spinning the wheel and doing the in-depth analysis, I think like I said, I like the depth his team has. At least at running back. Wide receiving is a bit of a concern. Tight end is good. Just needs like that. I think there's gonna be one trade made at the deadline to sort of vault this team into elite territory. I'd be looking at getting I don't know, who would I be looking at if I'm Chris? Who would I be looking to get? I think everyone's looking to get Josh Jacobs because and Jay if Jay decides to sell, he should be able to get a good price because I don't think there's like any other running backs to be sold by anybody. If I'm looking, no one is selling other than these three teams. McGovern's already sold Jonathan Taylor. He sold Rashad White, and I think, is there anything else? I'm trying to remember, but I could look, I suppose. I also got distracted because there's a fly in here, and I've been on a fly killing crusade in this room. That's why I have like a right over here. I have this this sheet covering up the window because the bugs have been attracted to the light, and they've been getting here. Just house flies, and they're really annoying. But running backs, Ford isn't the commodity he was before. A lot of these are the second RBs on their team. So really not much you can sell for any value. He's not selling A-Chain. There's no chance. So you go to Robert, possibly Najee Harris, but you're not getting like premium value for him. He's not really that good. Again, so not a whole ton of value on the running back landscape. But now for Jay, you have James Conner coming back. So he has Jacobs and Conner to sell. I think he should be able to get a ton of value for them. Especially with so many teams probably looking for that, that additional piece. You can't have too many solid running backs. So we'll see what he ends up doing. But yeah, I think Chris should be targeting one of them because the wide receivers available are, if he wants to really improve the wide receiver, which he already did, I guess with DK Metcalf. I just think DK Metcalf is just another one of the same guys he already has. Like his points above replacement, like a Calvin Ridley, or definitely better than Christian Watson, isn't going to be too great. But I could be proven wrong easily. So, in any case, that's what I have for Chris's team. Like it or hate it, I don't really care. Those are just my thoughts. And now we move on to the actual power rankings, the actual content that you people still keep coming back for. So I think as far as getting the colors down, the color is ready to go. Robert, I really want to take Robert out of the basement because it feels kind of lazy just to keep him there. But the other teams that would drop down and take a spot, I mean, it's really Jay or McGovern, and I still think Jay's team is better. He's going to have Connor coming back, so you have Jacobs, Connor, T. Higgins is coming into form. I tried to get him cheap, but I couldn't. And Deontay Johnson got a touchdown. So the wide receivers, he's still a little bit low on receivers, though there's some available on waivers that could be decent plays. We'll see if he capitalizes on it. But he's got Kelsey, who he could sell. I think the better candidate to sell would be Evan Ingram, especially if you want to keep Travis Kelsey next year. You could or couldn't. I don't really know what his thought process will be, but either of them could be good, or you could sell them both. So this is a team that's as a lot of guys that he can sell for either probably picks, or he could also sell, I guess, for prospects, right? Like, yeah, if there's someone he really believes in that would be a good keeper next year. A lot of these guys are kind of tough to keep, so I would be in the market for keepers and picks, and I think he has the type of guys that could do that. Like you have Jacobs and Connor get you some high value picks, and you have high value draft picks, and then you have Deontay Johnson, T. Higgins, that could get you some good. That could net you some prospects in return. So I think there's a lot that Jay can do here. I think it's a great time to be a seller. It's highly competitive, and we're getting close to the trade deadline with a ton of teams still competing. So should be a festival, I guess. I was gonna say a fest, but whatever, it doesn't matter. All right. So anyway, I think at that point Robert still kind of has to stay in the basement. Sorry, Robert, but I just got to keep you there. You had a good showing. You had another elite QB1 performance from Dak Prescott. Is that 3 in a row? 3 in a row from Dak Prescott, who could be found on waivers. I had him early on, dropped him, and now he's back and he's kicking ass. So a good outing, very close to a Jonnu Smith away from taking down Morgan Ellie, which would have made things really, really interesting in the midfield there. I guess they're interesting nonetheless, but just interesting stuff. But I unfortunately do think Robert has to stay down there, and then it's between Jay and McGovern for the next spot. And I gotta say, I think I gotta put Draft Pick Fan Club here. Draft Pick Fan Club, because Jay's guys are coming back. He hasn't sold anybody, so it's not like his team is it's not depleted. I think he's gonna have one of the better teams until the trade deadline. So I think his team is just better than McGovern's, and I can give him just a quick peek. I don't want to totally ignore McGovern's team here, but yeah, I mean, Jahan Dotson, that's a guy who could move. You could keep him, really. When did he get drafted? 5th round? Nah, I wouldn't keep him. But he's a guy who could get moved for, a pick swap or a prospect. But it's just, it's not a great team at this point, which is fine. I mean, most of these guys he traded away, so kind of expect it to be this way. But, I think that's why he stays down there. Honestly, maybe I put him. I still think it's a little bit better than Robert's team. Robert just has so many guys that are just like excruciatingly bad to play. And now Cam Akers is out, but like Van Jefferson, Any team that starts Van Jefferson is in trouble. So I think it's actually kind of close, but I think Roberts is still just a little bit lower than McGovern's at this point. So, but yeah, IU's coming back, so that'll be a boost to this team. So I could be proven wrong. They might be fighting for the basement status, come a few weeks from now. So let's then put McDonald's. There we go. And if he had gotten that win, that would have been really fun, but he didn't. So that's sad. Sad. But anyway, all right. So the next, there's definitely that tier shift now, right? We can move to. There's that damn fly again. All right, move into blue. All right. Oh, I have a client call in a half an hour, so I gotta move through this. All right. So the next tier. This is crazy because it's pretty much everybody else, right? There's some like. All right, there is a bit. Okay, there I can make a solid tier out of this, and it looks kind of. Let's see. I'd say just off the top of my head, you have Jake, Freaky. Jenny's team is a little bit has fallen a bit because who knows? I don't know how long Stafford's gonna be out, but that Rippin looked awful, and then even Zach's team, who I was so high on, really needed Kirk Cousins. Even more than I thought. Again, Will Levis is I like Will Levis as a player. I think he has time to develop and be good. But that was just a brutal start. Definitely cost him this week. This week. I mean, he just put up 15 points, and then that's does that win the matchup? I think that wins the matchup if he just puts up 15. The rest of the team is just really solid aside from Chuba Hubbard. I hope you lose your job. Back to Miles Sanders, but just some like good players. No bench depth. Justice Hill, I don't think is doing that great. Actually, what I was thinking of too, while I was looking back at other teams, I want to go back to what was it? Robert's team. I don't know if I'm like Jay. I guess this is what I was thinking. It was like Jay, Robert, any of these, and McGovern doesn't have much fab left, but I feel like Jay or Robert should be just unloading the clip for, or I guess even Freaky. Yeah, Freaky could probably do it too. Should be unloading the clip for Keaton Mitchell. I held him all this time, dropped him for Zeke Elliott. It sucks, but I do need Zeke on my team to back up Ramondre, but. He broke out. He had his game, and I think Freaky probably should hold on to some of his fab there. But these two teams should just unload the clip, put on pretty much everything you can into Keaton Mitchell. I think he probably has already taken over Justice Hill's job. I don't think he's going to take over Gus Edwards' job, but he's going to get a lot of. It's a run first team. Lamar can just pitch it to him. They can run all sorts of weird like RPOs that involve Keaton Mitchell, and he'll have wide open lanes to run through. And I think they need to just spend all their money on him. And I do expect one of them to. If not, it becomes which kind of team? I mean, Nolan could spend a ton of money. There's a lot of teams that have budget, and I expect this to probably be like the highest fab race so far, right? Like there's like 30. There's the 51, I guess, in the beginning of the season that went to like Josh Palmer or Josh Kelly. So we'll see what ends up happening, but I expect there to be a mad dash for Keaton Mitchell. But I definitely just bounced around a lot. But so running back depth it's being anchored by Swift and Barkley. Hubbard is there. It's fine. I guess it's like flex and emergency fill in. So I guess it's okay to have that kind of production. I'm just Chuba Hubbard's not winning you the championship, and he's gonna be on your bench most of the time. But for a week like week 10 with Swift out, he's gonna be playing. So we'll see what he does at quarterback for his matchup against Jenny. But this will be a big matchup because I think they're both. Are they both 5-4? No, Jenny's 4 oh shoot, I can't remember. Jenny's 5-4. So this is a big matchup between them two. And I think they're both, as far as power rankings, also in the same tier. So yeah, I think if I'm gonna go, who do I think is next? I had Jenny ranked highly, or I guess sort of highly before, but I, the lack of production from Cooper Kupp the last few weeks is super scary. Now Taysom Hill is an absolute vulture at the yard line at the moment. I don't think that stays. I think Kamara, gets some of that back. But this is a floor game. So 10 is a floor. This is pretty much a floor game for Breece Hall. He never really had a chance, right? They were being outscored from the jump. So I think just a couple of floor games there. And Andrews has been super heavily used, which is great for him. Look at that. I mean, that's why you draft him in the first. That's probably the best. Well, him and Gibbs were both taken in the first round, but for consistent value, Andrews has been delivering at a position like tight end, so that's a great first round pick. Pickens, I like Pickens. I think he's a great. I think he's a great player. I think he could be really good for fantasy, but it sounds like he's a pretty dirtbag of a human being. Maybe that's a little bit harsh, but there's something about like he's already saying, free me. He said like it was like Instagram or something like that, where he put out like a free me post and then deleted it. Even though they won the game, there's like stuff that, after Deontay Johnson scored his first touchdown since 2021, everyone's celebrating with him. So, congratulations. And Pickens is like nowhere to be found. Pickens is like sulking on the bench kind of stuff. And then has, I think a guy who says free me and gets pissy about his usage in a game the team wins, especially when your teammate hasn't had a touchdown for over a year, basically a year and a half plus, I think that's just shitty. I think that makes you kind of just like a shitty teammate. And why would anyone want to, like, you kind of have to pass him the ball because he's got talent, but he just kind of seems like a piece of garbage. So not a fan of him, but that's more of a me thing than I would still take him in fantasy. But would I? I don't know. We'll see. But crazy that Juju Smith-Schuster was like the number one wide receiver on this team last week. That's crazy. And Herbert put up 8 points. He never had to do anything though. So that's fine. But just a brutal outing. And nothing really going on the defensive side. So yeah, brutal outing for Jenny. And I think just like the lack of depth is really, really hurting now. Starting Keontae Ingram, who's not it. Like there's really nothing here. Spears is a great player. Just waiting for something to happen with Derrick Henry. It's just thin. It's just thin. So I think at this point in the season, I got to put maybe next year, right? Put next year here. How am I doing on time? All right, still it's 10:30. Yeah, so I put Jenny there, which is I think a 1 point. Was she 8th place last week? I think she just went from 8th to 9th in the power rankings. But I think I had her midfield at some point. It's definitely been bouncing around, which is tough because with a thin team, when they go off, when all of them go off, they look so much better, right? But there's no one on the bench to sort of if there's like if you have a slump like Cooper Kupp, there's no one you can say on the bench. Well, someone on the bench could put up 10, 11 points, pretty frequently. There is none of that. So if any of these guys slump, it's a doom. It's a death sentence for the team. So I put Jenny there. I'm not worried about. I mean, I'm worried about Freaky being able to make it into the playoffs. But he's only one game out, and he still has a very good team. He's going to have Kyron Williams coming back in a few weeks. He's got good players. Jake's team is still pretty solid. We're just waiting on Fields to come back, and if Fields can go, produce here, then Jake can make it to the playoffs. If not, then I just, I don't like Purdy too much. Purdy's okay, but I don't know. I think his fantasy numbers are better than what he actually is. Maybe I'm just crazy, but Madison now being an easy RB2 is helpful. Easy RB1. these guys can explode, right? Like Hopkins and Evans have talent. I'm a guy who believes in talent wins out, and Evans is a talent. DeAndre Hopkins is one of my favorite receivers ever. I just think he's so good. Even in his later years, he's still really good. Addison, I am a little nervous about Addison, but he could be okay. And then Jefferson's coming back, so I'll be more nervous when that happens. Like Dobbs plus being relegated to number 2 wide receiver is going to be tough. Tight end room looks good between Laporta and Fergie. James Cook at this point, a flex. He's a good flex. These are definitely good flex numbers. So it's a solid team. The ceiling is still kind of limited, but there's a handful of guys that can go off. But it's a middle of the road team, and in a spot where we're looking at what team is better between his or say someone like Zach's, who definitely a struggle here. Quarterback, you plug in someone from the waiver wire. Who do we got out here? For obviously Cousins, but you plug in like Russell Wilson, who's been quietly pretty good, like consistent. I mean that's pretty bad, and he has a tough schedule. That'll be good for playoffs. Russell Wilson win. I guess not because he had a bye, but again, a 15-point performance from his quarterback would have won him his last week. So his team is still fine minus the quarterback, and an average day from a quarterback, he gets that win, and I'm not considering putting him down in 8th. I don't think that's really the spot for him. But who does it go to, right? Like who's the next one? I normally would put myself in there because I think my team's around there, but I am believing more in my team. I think with the I'll get to it in a little bit, but I should entertain it. I don't think my team is at. I think they're better now. But like CeeDee Lamb has gone back-to-back weeks of just insane usage. Like 30 targets in the last 2 weeks, and the Cowboys are doing very well in the offensive department by doing that, right? So that's huge. Ramondre is the best player in New England, and he's getting used, in both running and the passing game. And I think they'll have to be doing more of that. It's a soft schedule. So I think he'll be good for the rest of the season. Jonathan Taylor is taking back, every week, getting more, more volume, taking away from Zach Moss. So I think, he's got a pretty good schedule too. So, and then I love Javonte Williams. I love this usage from before, those 27 carries. That looks like bad efficiency, but they're probably going to say, it says he was doing fine in that game. I watched that game, and he was ripping off good chunk yards. It was just the way the game unfolded, where he was just running into 9 men in the box, for the entirety of like the second half because of the way that game played out. So not worried about efficiency there. McBride should do a lot better with Kyler back. I just think it's a good team, and I'm still drunk with CJ Stroud's performance, so I don't want to spend too much time on that, but that guy is an absolute baller. The numbers are insane too, but just it was a blast to watch that game. And some good depth in the wide receiving department. Miles Sanders had a good game as a running back. I have backups in case my running backs get injured. So I think I have good depth. I have a lot that I need to be able to get into playoffs. So I rank 8, and I have a good record, right? I've benefited from some luck early on where I have a good record too. So I think at this point I'm not putting myself at 8th. I think there's some teams that I would put a little bit below mine, like Jenny's there. I do think between these two teams, I think I put Jake's here, honestly. And it's not, that's the thing. Like, I wonder if I don't know. It feels weird putting Jake's team in 8th because I think it's so much better than that. But there's a lot of good teams in here. Like, there's a lot of good teams that I just think are slightly better. but that's why they're all in the same tier, right? So I think after Jake's team, I think we look at my next guess is to look at Freaky's team. Like Pollard has been super disappointing, and just every single week it's just been disappointing. So trading away AJ Brown for Tony Pollard is pretty much a nail in the coffin for Freaky, but he still has some good talent. Khalil Herbert's going to be coming back, and this team, despite the injuries, has a chance to do some damage. Burrow's putting up points. He seems to be back, so I think Freaky makes it into the playoffs. And but again, who do I put in a different spot? That I think at this point, this one game could matter between making the playoffs and not, just being 4-5 versus 5-4. But as far as who's playing, like who has better roster construction at the moment, I think I would put his slightly over Zach's, just because the QB is such an unknown for Zach. But that's really, really difficult. Tyreek Hill's on bye, so that's gonna be a tough matchup against Chris. Yeah, what do you do? You put in, he's gonna have Jahmyr Gibbs over AJ Dillon, Pollard, Gibbs. I think Pollard has a good get right game against New York. I think they get up early, and then Pollard they just run it down. So I think that'll be good. This could be a good game against Houston. I think he gives Chris a run for his money. But I think in the meantime, just as far as power rankings, I got to put Antonio Gibson's Hitman Reborn here. And then I'm going to put K here. No, that just doesn't feel right. No, that doesn't feel right. I got to take that. That's not right. Let me think. Nolan's team is the same as it always has been. He suffered from a bad week. That's what really came out of this. Like Osborne had a concussion. Goddard's not. I mean that stinks. But Gerald Everett is not Dallas Goedert. So maybe he makes a trade with Chris. I don't know, but he'll be out for a while. But this is still a good team. I'm not worried about Ken Walker. Joe Mixon got his. It's just one of those weeks that things just didn't work out. So not super worried when Christian Kirk comes back. I still think this is a very solid team led by the number one scorer in all fantasy and Josh Allen. So I think he's not number 6. I think my team is probably I'd say at number 6. This is actually a good spot I think to put in my team. I think that makes a lot more sense. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put Kamish here. And then what was I going to say? I think Zach's goes here. Right, so K. And I do think is there a tier shift here? No, that's the thing. I don't think there's really a big shift moving up the line from here, because we have Elliot, Chris, Morgan, Ellie, and Nolan are left in here. So I looked at Nolan's team. I didn't dive deep into Nolan's team, and I can save that for another time. But did he just update? No, he didn't. Yeah, I think this is a solid team, and he's got a lot of buys in here. Really, I guess it's just Pacheco and Goddard being injured, but it's still a good lineup. So I think that's a very solid team that can make it through bye weeks, and should be good. Week 13 though, it's gonna be tough. Who does he get? Who gets him on week 13? Elliott. All right, so that should be helpful for Elliott to avoid Josh Allen. But yeah, so I think I put James White babies here. James White babies. And then let's see. I think I'm just wondering where there might be there might have been. I think there's like a slight. I think there's I do think there's like a slight tier shift in my head. I have like a slight tier shift actually here, right where I put in K K K K James White babies, and then now we have Elliot, Chris, and Morganelli. So, which is because Morganelli has such an interesting team, and this I feel like this happens every single year. Where I mean, this is gonna be a tough week because Mahomes, Devontae Smith, Puka, and Justin Jefferson's not back. So I mean, this is gonna be a tough week. They're still determining whether to designate him from injured reserve this week. So he could come back, right? He could come back. I'm guessing not. He might come back next week, which is when I play him. So that's fantastic. Yeah, great, awesome, just in time, right? Just in time for his matchup versus me, and Justin Jefferson will be back, and nobody's on bye. Terrific. In any case, so he's playing Jay this week. He just got done beating up Robert, so should be a winnable matchup. Depending on if if Jay doesn't, if he, if Jay gets James Conner back and he doesn't sell, this could actually be a good matchup. So wow, this is actually, that'll be tough. That's gonna be tough. But this is the bad week. So if you were to have a team where like all your guys are on bye, and you were to have you'd want your matchup to be against the 0-9 team. So it doesn't really get much better from Morganelli there. That's really, really fortunate. So I think among these teams remaining, I'm going to put Crew down here. I did the deep dive on his team already, so I don't need to do it anymore. Then I'm going to put Kraken combined tour. But this is such a good team. Like Mahomes has been off lately, right? Like he's just had a couple of bad weeks, but Morganelli's still won regardless. And I think he'll be okay moving forward. After the bye, they'll get right, and he'll start putting up his points again. So I wouldn't be worried about that. Jefferson comes back. Devontae Smith, now with Dallas Goedert out, I think he has a pathway to get a ton more points. And then and then Puka's Puka, so hopefully something can happen for the Rams, and then he can get back to his scoring ways. So it's a little nerve-wracking, but I think between Jefferson, Devontae Smith, you just get one more guy to step up. Boomer Bust Special and Gabe Davis. Rachaad White has been getting insane usage. I think he got him for a bargain now in the fifth, as of just a fifth round trade. He traded his fifth pick next year to get Rachaad White, who's been hyper efficient here. Whoa, those are amazing. Those are amazing numbers. He's had what? One. That's crazy. One target all year that hasn't been caught, which is, I don't know if I've seen that. That's crazy. But anyway, really, really good usage, and will pair very, very well with ETN. So ETN, White, an elite. So we'll have an elite quarterback, decent, good wide receivers. Obviously Jefferson is elite, but we'll see how he does with Dobbs. Good running back situation. His flex spots are like Brian Robinson, and I mean Pierce is in a bit of trouble, but Dalton Schultz has been awesome, and Kittle. So like it's good. He's got a good team, and then there's Puka too, who's proven to be amazing. So we'll see what happens in Ram country. This is a good team that's about to have their toughest matchup of the year, that with a chance to win it. So that should be a fun one to watch. So then that leaves obviously Elliott at the top, who had a bad week, but I think given the consistency of his team, I'm gonna put just in red like last time. We'll put UMC. I think there's really no reason to doubt him as his team as the best in the league at this point in time. I mean, it's really good. like it depends. Like if Jabbar Chase, I guess, is injured, I saw the day to day with back injury. I saw that already, but if he stays healthy, he should start getting more usage. Like he's been very solid. Just an off game here, it's fine. JSN has been getting hot. I think he's been putting up getting more and more usage there. And most importantly, he was getting that usage while DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett were on the field, and they had the full complement of running backs. Marquise Brown is going to get Kyler Murray back, which will be a huge boost in his value. I think this team is just as strong as it was before, and maybe even more so. AJ Brown, that's a good looking receiving core now, with running backs that if Montgomery picks up where he left off, will be he and CMC amazing, and Dalton Kincaid, thanks to the injury to Dawson Knox, is now a tight end one, an elite tight end one, catching passes from one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So this team is just as deadly as it always has been. But he gets Jake this week, so that should be good for Jake to be able to catch Elliott sans Philadelphia Eagles. So, but I think he's still at the top there. He's a lock for playoffs and most likely a lock for a bye. This is the rest of the power rankings. Yep, that's everyone. So that'll about do it. I'm getting a dry throat. It's getting a bit sore. But in any case, yeah, I think it's going to be another good week, week 10. We're getting really close to the trade deadline, so I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of trades coming through. But yeah, in the meantime, have a good personal week, a shitty fantasy week, and I'll see you guys next week.